Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Lachlan here, and today we're going to do a first impressions video of the Shure SRH-1540 that I just bought. And in particular, we're going to do a comparison with the Sony MDR-Z7. And the reason why I'm doing this particular comparison is that I actually bought the 1540 to replace the Z7, and I am selling the Z7 to someone else this afternoon. So that might give away a little bit about my thoughts on the two headphones, but I think it's an interesting comparison because I do think they are very similar headphones that are worth comparing. And after reviewing the Z7, I was really kind of interested in what is the state of full-sized closed-back headphones on the market. So I demoed the 1540, I got the Beyerdynamic DT770, etc., etc. So the other reason why I got the 1540 was that with a poor Australian exchange rate, this headphone was priced at $595 Australian dollars when I bought it from Addicted to Audio, and I bought it just ahead of a price increase to $749 in Australia. Likewise, the Sony is priced at $699 in Australia, and that price is now rising to $999 in Australia because of the poor exchange rate. So that's pretty crazy. I just wanted to get in before it became impossible for me to get anything to review on this channel. Anyway, let's actually just start with the comparison of the design of the two headphones. Now, these are both nicely built headphones. The 1540 is nicely built, but clearly it's not like a flagship level headphone like the Z7 is. So we have the beautiful metal ear cups on the Z7. Just everything about this headphone screams flagship. That isn't to say that the 1540 is built shabbily. It's certainly not. But the plastics and that kind of thing don't scream premium in the same way. We do have this carbon fiber composite weave on the ear cups of the 1540 that some people are a big fan of. I personally am not a really huge fan of the carbon fiber weave look, but personal preference. In particular, the cable on the Z7 is nicer than the cable on the 1540 because of that twist to lock mechanism on the Z7, which is very nice, and the fact that the cable is very supple and it doesn't tangle or anything like that. With the 1540, it's got a tough cable, but it does tend to kink a little, which is not nice. And the connection points use these kind of modified MMCX connectors, which, as we all know, you want to avoid detaching and attaching too often because they will get loose over time. I should mention, though, I don't normally mention accessories, but the 1540 does come with an extra set of ear pads and an extra set of cables and a very nice carrying case. So that's really admirable of Shure to include those accessories. Normally manufacturers would charge you a lot of money for spare parts like that, but you get a whole set of spare parts with the 1540. That's really nice, and it makes you feel like you've paid for something quite substantial. The 1540 also weighs slightly less than the MDR-Z7, which is a real positive. I mean, the Z7 is already impressively light, but the 1540 is about 280 grams versus the, I believe, 320 gram weight of the Z7. Both headphones are very, very comfortable. The ear pads in particular I find more comfortable on the Shure. They use this Alcantara padding fabric, so this is the kind of sports car fabric that was also on the Momentum on-ear model that I looked at a while back. It's very breathable. As you can see, it has these pores here. So your ears will, have plenty of room to breathe in these ear cups. Really very comfortable. And they have a soft shape, and it just so happens that this oval shape just complies with my head a little better. That's not to say the Z7's large ear cups are not also similarly plush, but they just don't quite feel as nice as the fabric ear cups. The headband is a different story. On the Z7, we have a headband that I feel like makes a very, very broad contact all along the way with the top of my head. Whereas I don't know why, maybe to save weight, on the 1540, the headband is actually divided between two rails. And it's comfortable, but it does mean that there's more weight put on less surface area in terms of contact with the head. So it's not quite as comfortable as the Sony. They're both comfortable. I've worn both for very long times, like for hours on end. So it's hard for me to say which one is more comfortable because they are slightly different. But needless to say, they are both very comfortable headphones. One really nice point of the 1540 over the Z7 is that the 1540 is not, as far as I can see, a ported design. It does not isolate as poorly as the Z7. In fact, the isolation on the 1540 is quite good. The isolation on the Z7, as I said, is quite poor, both because of the two ports on the top and bottom of the headphone, and that's a big selling point for me with the higher isolation of the 1540. Even though the Z7 is a closed headphone, it doesn't really isolate like you would expect from a closed headphone. Okay, let's talk about the sound. Both headphones are actually quite similar in character, and they both have a similar target sound, and neither of them really require amplification. They can be both driven quite comfortably out of portable players. So they both have a big, prominent bass line. Both of these headphones are warm, thick sounding headphones. The difference is that the Z7, in terms of bass, has more of an upper bass emphasis with less sub bass to back it up. In comparison, the 1540 has more of a solid, more of a resonant bass tone. It has more sub bass to go along with the mid bass. Definitely both headphones have a hump in the bass. The 1540 has even more, I would say, of a sort of punch to it than the Z7. And if you think the Z7 is, in terms of quantity, not quality of bass, but in terms of quantity of bass, already too much, you might find that the 1540 has too much bass. I think it's okay. It's not as humped as strongly as, say, something like the Sony MDR-1A, but it's definitely humped. I prefer the bass on the 1540 over the Z7. I just think it sounds more visceral and more well controlled. The mids are also great on both of these headphones. In particular, male vocals are very, very similar on both headphones. They sound very similar. So that's not a huge difference. Where the difference really comes out is in female vocals. The Z7 has a particular upper mid or lower treble emphasis that makes female vocals sound a bit glossier and brighter, whereas the 1540 blends female vocals more evenly in with the male vocals. So it's a subtle difference, maybe only about 3 or 5 decibels of difference, but it does give a different character to female vocals on the Z7. So depending on how you look at it, the Z7 is more clear and pronounced in the mids, or it's more honky and less natural. It's just a matter of preference. I can imagine some people finding the mid presentation of the Z7 really special. I actually like both. I like the way vocals sound on both. They both have a very smooth kind of smooth, mellow kind of midsection. The Z7 has that more immediate bell tone kind of clarity in the mids, but the 1540 I think is a bit more natural. It's a bit more well integrated, and I think it's a bit safer in this area, particularly at high volumes. In terms of treble, neither headphone places a great deal of emphasis on the treble section, but the 1540 does have more treble extension. It's got a little more treble texture and extension, and as a result, I think it sounds more natural and less blunted in the treble, particularly for things like stringed instruments and stuff. Again, I prefer the 1540's treble over the Z7, though both of the headphones are pretty sleepy in the treble, and I wouldn't mind if either of these headphones had more in the treble. That was definitely one of my complaints with the Z7. It's less of a complaint with the 1540, but I could do with a little more energy. That's my own personal preference. Now, they both have similar sound stages. They're both very wide, though the 1540 has more of a sense of scale because of that solid bass impact, while at times on certain tracks the mid emphasis on the Z7 gives slightly more of an expansive feel with vocals. So depending on the track, the Z7 can actually sound a bit more open, or the 1540 can sound a bit more cohesive. And overall, that kind of just sums up what I think the differences are between these two headphones. I think they actually are very, very similar. to the point where that's why I can actually consider the 1540 a direct drop-in alternative to the Z7. To me, the 1540 is overall more natural and more well blended. The Z7 is more of a tailored, more kind of a tuned sound, a little more synthetic. Depending on how you look at it, it's a really special signature or it's a bit wonky. They both excel at similar genres like electronic music, but I think the 1540 is more of an all-rounder. So, both of these headphones, I think, sound good. But I think the 1540 is the better headphone when you consider that it has a lower price, and it has higher noise isolation, has roughly equivalent comfort, and it has that kind of generosity with the included accessories. And that's really nice to see. And as much as I think the Z7 is a beautifully built headphone, the 1540 is like the Z7 with a few tweaks in the right places where I wanted to see differences with the Z7, and it does it all at a sharper price point. And that's why I prefer the 1540 over the Z7, and that's why I'm letting the Z7 go, because I only have so many ears and I don't need to keep around two very similar sounding headphones. So if you are interested in the Z7, I really strongly urge you to demo the 1540 alongside it as well. Anyway, I'll have a full review up of the 1540 eventually, but I am, of course, looking forward to your comments. You can talk to me on Facebook at facebook.com/LocklingLikesAthing or on Twitter at LockLikesAthing. Thanks to everyone who helped me get the Z7 on the channel. And of course, that money is now being rolled into the 1540. So thank you again for your support. And if you would like to help support the channel, you can head on over to patreon.com/LocklingLikesAthing. Anyway, thanks to all my regular subscribers and happy listening.